All right, there is a user named micecampochiaro who has asked me in the you know asked me within some other conversations, within the context of me saying that people don't want self ownership and that people can't be slaves. Asked me if I have a job and if I don't believe that I'm enslaved to that. In other words, isn't there such a thing as wage slavery? And basically, I am very much for people considering the reality of wage slavery because I think we're in an economic system that's more or less founded on the idea of slavery and that we're still in that system. I personally don't feel very comfortable calling myself a slave, mostly because there are people out there with such worse conditions that it becomes a bit silly for me to emphasize my slavery when I have such good conditions. But it's similar to being a house slave, that you have a lot better conditions. It might make you self-conscious about complaining about your slavery when it could be so much worse. You could be a field slave. But the reality is there's still a system of slavery. But I also believe that slavery is in the mind, that if you were a field slave and you are, for all intents and purposes, actually a slave, you don't have to see yourself that way. And this is important because in the history of slavery, there are plenty of examples of slaves respecting the property right of their owners, understanding. Even if they wanted to steal their freedom, they would see it as stealing their freedom. They might even think it's okay to steal in that case, but still be respecting, in some sense, the concept of property and that it can apply to people. Okay, and I feel that if a field slave refuses to see themselves as a slave, but is in the same exact situation, are they fooling themselves? No, because in that situation they know they're the victims of a crime, that they are being oppressed and exploited. And the fight for freedom comes from recognizing your own internal freedom as actual, as the appropriate state against which you are comparing your actual situation. So I do not believe in principle that just working makes you a slave. If I have to, in the state of nature, if I have to do work to survive, I have to go get water from the creek, I have to find food. I'm not a slave to those processes. Those follow from my desire to survive. And if I don't want to survive, then the question of slavery wouldn't even come up. But it's my interest in my own survival that is the root of me doing that work. Now, if I am in a situation of a slave, then my desire to survive has been exploited, and I think this is the real situation of slavery, is that there can be no such thing as slavery. However, there can be people putting various leverage on you, holding your own survival over your head so that you work more for the betterment of their conditions than you do for the betterment of your own conditions, that your work enhances their survival more than it enhances your own survival. And this is I wish, a natural condition that we call slavery. And it all happens without really acknowledging that people can't be free. And so I do not believe that we are in any way bound to call those things that we have to do, our enslavement.